Hello and welcome to another one of my videos, and in today's video I'm going to be doing my podcast. So I had to think about that then for a second. I don't know why. For those of you who do like my content, you know how to support me by now. You can do that by liking, commenting and subscribing if you haven't done so already. And the topic of today's podcast is why I don't worry about other coin dealers, or I don't want to say pretenders, traders maybe. You know, I found over the years that in the time I've been trading, a lot of emphasis is put on your competition, but it doesn't really need to be. You know, it's not a case of I'm the nice guy and I want to get on with everyone. The truth is there's going to be times when you're friends with someone, when you're frenemies with someone, and when you're enemies. You know, but there's always kind of a link between people that you can tend to work with. Now, the reason I'm not really that bothered about the competition is because on the silver, you know, there's plenty of people getting it in from the States VAT free. There's a gentleman from Canada who's getting it via the UK, getting it to the UK without the appropriate charges. This is always going to happen. This is going to happen in every industry. If anyone who is a high official is watching this, I don't know who these people are. Just for the record, it does happen. This is a hypothetical video. It's always going to happen. You know, I'm limited to the amount of silver that I can trade. You know, I tend to like your semi-numi coins. I make my money out of being more knowledgeable. But it doesn't really matter. Like, if you're a dealer and you're paying spot, or spot plus a pound, or spot plus 2%, which is sometimes the case for one of my suppliers, on silver, that is. That's not on gold. It doesn't matter. The issue and what you should worry about is not your competition, it's your supply line. Is your supply line strong? Is it consistent? And if it isn't, how can you kind of bolster that? So there are other dealers that I work with on the gold who are saying they've had no stock in. Supply went overnight. My major supply, you know, the videos I put out where I'll be like, £10,000 worth of coin. Yeah, it's catchy, but it doesn't really mean much. You know, it's such a small amount in the grand scheme of things. You know, he's been trying to source me stock. He just said to me, I don't have it. I've been waiting 3 weeks for stock. You know, he did go on a bit of a hiatus. I think when they saw the smackdown, his dad just decided to shut up shop because he kind of knew, and that's experience for you. So there's always going to be times where the supply line goes down, and when it goes down, it tends to go down for everyone. Now, if you're looking at the big bullion dealers, they've kind of done okay. You know, they're getting in your semi-numi stock. So where the price shoots up, they get in lots of stock, and they can't afford to keep it on their books. These guys are not my enemies. You know, I'm not worried about them. If anything, I'm kind of yapping on at them. I was like, what do you have? What's come in? You know, because I can pick up stock that they don't necessarily have the knowledge, or they don't necessarily have the time to go through. You know, they've got more bills than me. They're more rigid in terms of business structure. You know, they probably either owe money or their cash flow is a lot. You know, if you look at a company such as Chards or Atkinson's or Hatton Garden Metal, they've probably got between 5 to 10 members of staff each. You know, and if they're all on 20k, they're not going to be on that. They're going to be on more, of course. You pay your staff well in this game, because if you don't, there's going to be theft and there's going to be issues. There's going to be fraud. You know, you want to pay your staff well because they will look after the business. If that is the case, they're going to need a minimum of 200k or 100k, 200k, depending on how many staff they got. They got 5. That's 100k minimum. And then you've got the owner who needs to take money out of it. The owner always gets paid last, by the way. So I'm not particularly worried about these guys because they can't afford to extract as much value as possible. How many massive companies are there that have surplus stock of top end graded coins or ungraded coins? How many are there that have a massive workforce, or even a workforce of say 10 people? I can't think of any, really. You know, you look at the guys in London. There's a stamp shop. I think it's Baldwin's. I think they've got, I don't know how many members of staff. I've only ever seen 3-4 people in there. You know, these are super specialist guys, and they deal with kind of the top end of coins. they hold on to their stock. You know, they kind of get the money out, but they're in a prime location in London. I believe they're in the Strand. So I'm not competing with these guys when times are super good. When times are super bad, if anything, I kind of see that as an advantage, because when times are bad, a lot of the good stock gets shaken out. So you're going to see a lot of coins that are semi-numismatic, and this is where I make my bread and butter. So I don't even worry about the guys who are importing from the States and they're not paying the VAT. These guys are not my competition. I'm not scared of them in any way, shape or form. They're not even an afterthought, really. It's more a case of, I've got 85k I can trade with. What can I get in? Can I make 15-20% on the stock? When the times slow down, so when the price spikes, a lot of gold comes out because people just want to sell up. It's a very emotive game that we deal in. When the price drops, people kind of panic. So people get shaken out, and they get shaken out, and before you know it, you've kind of got a lot of stock that is your semi-numismatic or your bullion that's kind of gone cheap because there are support lines. The whole market is based around the paper market. You know, the coin market tends to piggyback that paper market, and you can kind of look in a way where you can work out. Now you could be saying, but Sean, you're talking about the smaller guys here and a couple of the bigger dealers. Why are you not scared of the huge dealers? Well, that's very simple. I am very lightweight in terms of my costs. You know, if I get an office, it's probably going to add maybe another £300 to £400 onto my outgoings a month. It will pay for itself if I can get the relevant stock from my door. But I know that I'm in the wealth game. You know, I know there's going to be a couple bad bumps in the year. If someone was to wage war with me, it's very simple. I can fight guerrilla tactics. So if someone says, if someone says to me, I'm going to dry you out the bullion game, you're not going to sell sovereigns because I'm going to sell them at spot plus 1%, there's nothing you can do about it. Well, that's very simple. I can solve that in two ways. I can say, well, okay, if you're going to move the goalposts, I'm going to move the goalposts for what I buy, or I'm going to cherry pick the good stock that you cannot get in, because my backers and my contacts are bigger than your backers and your contacts. You know, and it's not a problem. There's always going to be someone who kind of corners the market. I spoke with a dealer, and this was the topic of another podcast recently, where I said to him, I was like, if you constantly bombard the groups, it's going to become an enrichment program for a very select few people. He's kind of backed off. Like, I don't know what happened. I don't know if he took it personally. It wasn't meant personally. But he hasn't really posted in Back the Metal, which that's up to him. You know, I want the best traders, but at the end of the day, if people were killing the price, you know, it's kind of a problem. But if he was to say, I'm selling Krugs for spot plus 1, because that was actually what was happening, I can then turn around and say, well, okay, I can't compete on that. What can I compete on? This guy's bigger than me. Can I go to my suppliers and can I say, look, I've kind of got a problem with this guy. I was like, you guys are monsters. You guys are absolute monsters. You're getting in millions of pounds worth of gold coins between them weekly. Can you move on the price? If you can't move on the price, what do you have in that I can make margin on? You know I can move it. I know I can move it. What can you do? And if they can't help me, you know, I can either go out and I can set up an office and I can pay cheaper, you know, and fight fire with fire. That's not always the best tactic. You know, that becomes a race to the bottom, and it becomes a case of which dealer buys for the cheapest. That's not why I set this business up. The business wasn't set up to kind of maximize my profits by taking it out on people who sell to me. You know, there's other dealers who are unscrupulous that will do that. But I don't worry about these guys, because at the end of the day, the market forces kind of keep these guys in check, because the lower you offer, the less people will sell to you, because people are savvier than you think. You're always going to get people who get shaken out for maybe spot minus 10, spot minus 15%. You're going to get people who don't know what they have. You're going to get people who just want to make a quick buck and they're not really too fast. There's going to be people who buy from decades ago who just look at it in a monetary value and say, oh, that's a good price, even though they're kind of getting ripped off. But there's not many of these people. Most of your sellers tend to be more savvier. They will try and haggle. They'll try and get the best price. Now, all I have to do is accept that if another dealer wants to take it to me, in the sense that he wants to hammer me on the price, I can just put a thing, say, well, actually, I'm happy making £50 on a Krugerrand, and I just make it a buy. I just act as market maker. So I go down my little black book of contacts, which I have, and I say, well, actually, I've got this coming in at 98%. Do you want to do it at spot plus 1%? You know, so I'm not really worried about this type of dealer. Like I said, small guys, I can outlast them. You know, these are the guys that get taken out when spot price crashes. The big guys, I can team up with them. I can outmaneuver them because I'm more nifty. You know, the medium type of guys, I tend to build friendships with them. You know, I want to trade with them on equal terms. You know, because there's always going to be a time where they scratch your back, and you can scratch theirs. You know, and that's certainly not a problem. That's going to happen in any business. But it's important to realise that in this business, this is the last point I'll make before I wrap it up. It's kind of dragging on. In this business, it's not like any other business. So there was a subscriber, and he said, my dad got put out of business, or he had a rough time in business due to the bigger players in this game. That doesn't really happen in the gold market. It doesn't happen because of how low the margins are. There's no economies of scale to be had by being huge. Not that I can think of anyway. Usually when a business is operating such as your mum and pop's stores, they get put out of business by economies of scale. They cannot compete in terms of buying power because the bigger businesses can buy cheaper than, or they can sell it cheaper than the mum and dad stores can buy it. It's not the case for gold, because the lower you offer and the larger your margins are, the smaller you will inherently be, because people are savvy in the market. And also, the higher your prices are on the other end of it, the more you'll have to put into advertisement. So there's always these market forces that keep you in check, and that's okay. You know, I don't think there's ever going to be one massive player in the UK. I think you're going to have a very fragmented industry, and it's all about choosing who to ally yourself with. But I'm certainly not scared of the big guys. I'm even less scared of the little guys. And medium guys, it's more personal because they're more on my level. You know, am I scared of them? No, of course not. But I do want to be friends with them. You know, I want to get on with them, and I want to be trading on equal terms. And if I do one day make it to the big time, you know, it's kind of symbiotic in the sense that I'll probably be pricing in the same way that the big guys price now. There's going to be people who make money off my back because I can't afford to price it properly, because I have the costs of running staff and a shop, etc., etc. And that's just how it is. You know, it's not a problem. When you're smaller, you can extract the prices because you can run it on a shoestring, and when you're bigger, you make the money on the turnover. So I hope that kind of puts things into perspective of why I don't really fear other traders. You know, I hope people understand that I'm in the wealth game and not in the income game. And once you understand the strategies that are involved in this industry, it's a pretty easy game. It's just a case of supply. Demand is easy. Demand is very easy. It's one of the most liquid items in the world, if not the most liquid. It's all about, can you get the supply? So I hope you've enjoyed the podcast. I sincerely hope you have a nice day, and I'll see you on the next one.